Hi guys, it's Rocko here. Welcome to our very first Crypto Gems AMA. I'll do this weekly, guys. I'll bring on a project from Luna Classic. Today's episode is on Terraport, but I'll be also doing it on other projects. AI is a big narrative at the moment. Next week, I've got an AI project that will come up. So we'll do our usual talk about Bitcoin, Luna Classic, and then do a 45-minute interview of that project. These videos, guys, could help you find out about projects before, it goes mainstream. You could potentially be early, so hopefully you find this really helpful, or also improve your knowledge of what's happening in cryptocurrency and newer launches. If you want to support this channel, guys, do hit that like button and subscribe. I always make a 10-15 minute short Luna Classic video. If you are interested in that, I'll have a link of that at the end of this podcast. Also, guys, I'm making DeFi content, so I've been losing money on meme coins and different rugs, so I've started using stable coins to make 20%, 15% yield on Uniswap on stable coins, and also some of the riskier degen farming DeFi strategies as well. So I'll be making 1 or 2 videos on that as well during the week. So if you enjoy the content, do hit that like button and subscribe. And comment below Luna Classic, Terraport, I hate Rocko. It really helps the channel out. So enjoy this video, and if you have any questions, do comment below. I'll try to answer it in future videos. Thank you very much.
Yes, well, Redline is here. It'd be good to get Redline back on. That Spaces we did, I think it was 2 weeks back or last week. It was Redline, DJ Trev, I forgot the lady's name, Pink Unicorn, I think. They had the discussion. My thoughts were, again, I would rather have decentralization and make it work like that. But, we've been doing this for so long, and, you could argue, well, we should do better than we have done. So if we can have a team, a leader that can take us towards a goal, then I'll support that as well. So I guess that was my stance on it. But then some people were just saying, yeah, decentralized doesn't matter. We want everyone, which, again, I don't think, we should do that. There should be like a balance, because, that's one of the key things about crypto. So, yeah, I think my stance was more in the middle ground, which you probably usually take and focus on making money. That's, why we're here. If Luna Classic don't make money, I thought, the engagement of the community would be even less after this long. But Luna Classic seems to have this special, aura, or there's got something that keeps people here. But yeah, if we don't progress as much as we should, then people will look elsewhere, and the community has fallen shorter than it was back in a couple of years back. So it was an interesting discussion. Maybe Redline can give his summary. He was quite passionate, which is something that I like about Redline.
I was actually thinking about that, and why people were getting impatient and why it's taken so long actually recently. But if you think back 2 or 3 years ago, or even to more recent times, the community would be quite rigid in terms of what they could accept in terms of repeg proposals. Like, they didn't want any minting, there was no reverse splits, there was no reissuing of new tokens, whereas all that stuff is now being discussed in the open. Do you know what I'm saying? So now you can probably get proposals that are geared. Before, we were all kind of really hoping that somebody would come in and help us, whether it be an exchange or something else, and all the proposals were kind of tailored around that and what the community wanted. Whereas now the community is seeing that nobody's going to come in and save us, so we're going to have to save ourselves, and the only way we're going to do that is to make money. So, like, when you look at the proposals and the ideas that are coming forward now, they seem to be more geared towards that, and the community, in my opinion, is a bit more accepting of that as well. So I don't know, I can see, if you look at, for me, if you look at Athena, right, or USDE, right, they're only around a year or two, and if you look at their market cap, it's something like 6 or 8 billion or something like that, and they came out of nothing, and that just shows the demand that's there for decentralized stablecoins, and they have a very convoluted way of producing yields. It's actually quite complicated, and I think that Athena USDE is a risky play even. But if you look at what I was putting forward, or what Leonardo was putting forward, they're an awful lot less risky, and you should be able to produce similar enough yields to what Athena is doing. Plus, we've all the other stables, whereas they're kind of only dollar based. So I'm actually kind of bullish on the fact that we could become a real competitor to the likes of them. And if you're talking about scaling to that size, we're talking about generating the kind of money where we could actually potentially, either repeg or buy back out USTC again, or start to be making people whole. But we'd be doing it ourselves rather than depending on somebody else. Sorry, if I go a bit fast. I know when I start thinking about these things, I tend to ramble on a bit. But I don't know, did you get that? Or
Yeah, one thing I would add. So you said that Athena sort of came out of nowhere. I guess that's not necessarily true because they were backed by one of the biggest exchanges. The amount of money Arthur Hayes has got from BitMEX, we're liquidating traders on BitMEX. They have all the connections and all the money that we didn't have. So yeah, I guess it's they're in a different position to us. But that's not to say that the demand for the stable coins is still huge. I still think we can do something with USTC, and I like what you mentioned. Maybe I'll speak to you offline as well about just getting yields through Uniswap is huge just on stable coins. I've been playing around with it myself, and I'm like, shit, I should have been doing that more rather than losing money on soul memes and getting not scammed, but losing money on Maroon and Kuji liquidations. I could have done that more when I had a lot more stables or a lot more coins. So yeah, that's something that I do agree with you.
Yeah, and if you look, I wouldn't normally be chasing them kind of yields either. I'd be kind of like you, investing in kind of the smaller projects or whatever, hoping to make kind of 10x's or whatever, But when you people with big money, so if you somebody with 500,000 or something like that, 20% or 10% yield to them, that's massive. They will live. They can retire on that, if that makes sense. And they're really the kind of people we need to be chasing, and that's the kind of money we need to be bringing here. If you look at, if you try to put out if you just look at Athena, right, and USDE, and the yields they're producing versus the yields that we could be producing by, just LPing the stablecoin pairs. I mean, we'd have a safer product than USDE, producing higher yields than USDE. Do you know what I mean? For me, I'm super bullish at the fact that.
So did you want to just summarize how Athena makes money? I've looked into them before. So is it two main ways, right? One is the Ethereum staking deals, and the other thing is getting the futures spread. They make money on the difference of I don't know what the right word is, the between the rates of loaning people money on futures that they borrow. So those are the two ways they make money.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But if you even look at it, they have some of those perps where they actually run losses. I was actually looked at one of their main developers put up a code that they were closing off some of the loss-making pools. So the thing is, when you're talking about doing what they're doing, there is risk involved in it, and you've counterparty risk then as well. Whereas when you're doing what I'm suggesting to do, the only thing you're limited by is the liquidity in the pool, essentially. You're not going to lose money because everything you're trading against is fully backed. Do you know whether you get USDC? Do you know what I mean? If even one of the pairs I was showing there was 77% APR on the day, trading USDC for wrapped USDC. They're both backed by the same dollars in the bank. It's relatively risk-free, compared to what Athena is doing. And much higher yields.
Yeah, no, that's something that I'm really interested in. Maybe I'll have a chat with you offline, Redline. Spoon, do you have anything to add on this current discussion?
I just want to say hi. It's been a while since I've been in this community. I was there a few years back, and see how you guys are doing. But I've heard and I've listened your last space, and it was good. It was great to see you guys come together. My question to you, because I'm rethinking about Lunc. It's because of where Lunc stands and what you guys are doing. Is the chain up to date, up to par? Are all the modules updated, or that hasn't been completed?
I guess that's Redline. Oh, you go ahead.
As far as I know, we're up to date with the exception of STK 0.5. Is it 0.05? I think, is it? I think other than that, I think we're fairly up to date. Like, you'd probably be better talking to Hexagon down there. He'd be better or Echelon would be better to answer that question than me, or Strat or Frag. But from what I'm aware, we are fully up to date, with the exception of the last Cosmos SDK.
Gotcha. So if a project from the outside wants to connect and utilize the network, that's ready to go, right?
I believe so. Like Rex is here beside me. He'd actually be dealing with a lot of projects that we'll be building here on Lunc.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much the case. And of course, the with the latest kind of proposal that went through, and the chain upgrade, the burn tax has been transferred into gas now, so that removes a barrier there, which should make it a lot easier for other projects to come on. I think the gates are open.
Great. That's good to know. I've listened to you guys centralize, decentralize, and I've gone through this process back in the past. I'd have to agree that this decentralized portion would have to be in place due to the, regulations and many things that's happening around the world. I'd like to build on this chain, and if it's centralized, decentralized chain, you just build on. Really, does it require permission from the community to build on this chain?
It just requires somebody with the willingness. That's all you need. We're open for everybody. Decentralization is about being accessible to everybody, and that's what we're about. So there's no control other than validators, through kind of, voting based on, staking delegations, that type of thing. That is the only control, and that's purely about safety and security.
Gotcha. Because obviously the leadership role isn't going to happen. It's been tried. And the decentralized is where it's at. And I see it, just let it be decentralized. Just fix it. And you guys said it's already fixed. The chain is ready. Only a few things. Can a centralized party participate in fixing those things and just upload it, fix, get it done and over with, and then we move on? Would that be a possibility?
Yeah. So there's various discussion groups, and they'll be on Discord, they're on Telegram, and I guess various other media and platforms that maybe some of us here don't even know about. If you think of this, let's call it discussion group here in terms of this spaces, we are like a continent within the Lunc or Terra Classic ecosystem. But there'll be unknown continents out there that we don't know about. It's just people that have found us form part of this kind of part of the community. So we kind of, I guess, feel like we are one of the main parts. But I think there's other, bits of communities out there as well. So where I'm coming to is there's various Telegram groups, which many people here will be aware of. And if you want to contribute to L1 development, everybody and anybody is welcome, providing you're legitimate, and you want to work, and you can do the work. You can always put proposals in if you want to have funding for that. But there's many people, contribute massively to the chain just on a volunteer basis because they believe in decentralization and they believe in supporting that.
I'd agree with you. I think once I launch my project, then I'm going to circle back and look at that. And if I am going to bridge over to this network, then I think it's important. I spent a lot of time here, and I feel a lot of people, and the chain is great. If we can build on it, I'll talk to my guys. We just build on it. That's it. So I'll build on it and give people options. And if we're in the right position, then we'll participate in fixing those things. And we probably won't ask for money. We just fix it. You guys look at it. If it's good, you upload it. Whatever, it's done, right? Because it's not gonna. No one's gonna agree on things. Keep it decentralized so everybody's happy. And you build on it. I build on it. I'll build on it. Everyone builds on it. The chain comes to life, and really that simple. I think that's the solution because we're going in circles like a revolving door, again and again and again and again and again. It's a great chain. It's such a waste, But as long as you got Binance, involved in it, I think it's got life. My question is that how's the infrastructure? Is there enough liquidity, or I don't know how that works. I forget to support the infrastructure for this chain.
I guess it depends what you mean by infrastructure.
The server that
Validators are
the validators I'm
validators
not
are
worried
infrastructure.
about. I know that they run their own stuff. It's runs all the modules and all the other applications that's connected with chain, so-called in chain, the main nodes and all that.
So every validator has nodes, okay? However, ones that are accessible by the public, the endpoints, if you like. So all nodes produce some of those, but also, or manage some of those, if you like. But also many of the other projects do as well. So Terraport has its own endpoints. Hexagon will have its own endpoints. Whether they're publicly accessible or not, that'll be on a project by project basis. And I think currently with the rewards that validators get, and particularly, all nodes has been the biggest validator, or the validator with the most delegations and staking on the chain. I think what they receive more than covers the cost of those endpoints, and providing, I guess they can do that and generate a profit. Then that's good. But yeah, I think any project would be better off if it had. Well, a project that needs to do lots of kind of call requests would be better off with its own kind of endpoints from a security perspective, if nothing else.
Well, excuse me. Let me rephrase, and I appreciate Rex letting me know. What I meant is the Terraport. Who controls that? Who's running the infrastructure for that? Who has access to it? Who updates it?
Just be clear what you mean by the infrastructure. Do you mean the servers that it sits on?
The servers that handle all those files, right? The what is that called? The wallet. What do you guys call it? Let me see if I still have it. Station. The Terra Station. Yeah, Terra Station. That's part of the network, right? That's part of the chain.
No, well, not really. Now we've more decentralized wallets, such as Hexagon there beside you, like they're a decentralized wallet. So that would have been Terra's. It would have been a wallet owned by TFL, say, but that's actually been sold. So now people are mainly using either Hexagon wallet or Kepler or one of those. But there are decentralized wallets there that you can use, no problem.
I got you. So the only thing we're looking for is just people to build on it, right? That's it. But everything else is ready, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so
I think most of the fighting seems to be around the direction the chain is going to take, rather than having people do.
How do you fight a direction of a chain or give a direction of a chain? Back then, it was more so let's bring it up to date. If it's up to date, it's ready to go. What direction would you want the chain to go? Like, I mean, I'm just kind of confused.
I suppose a lot of the argument will come around that maybe being decentralized or having a centralized entity kind of running the chain, and just for a lot of us, this chain was about decentralized money, and bringing KYC into that would kind of rule that out. So that's what you'll find a lot of the arguments are on this chain, rather than you won't find any problems building on this chain.
Okay, so people want it centralized. Back then, I would want it centralized because it wasn't doing anything. Nobody could sort of like make a decision, but still no one can make a decision right now. So since Web3 is all decentralized, and at this point, it's decentralized. So let's build. So do we need to advertise the chain? I mean, if you have the masses, the people, it's already advertisement. So I'll connect to it. I'll build on it. We'll say we build on it, so it gets a bird's eye view, and then the next person that follows will build it. Just keep building. I think that's it, right? If everything's fixed, let's just build.
Hey, just wanted to chime in on this. So infrastructure-wise, as well as LCDs and RPC and gRPC and all that, all the endpoints are there already. We offer them. All Nodes offers them. I think there might be a few other people that offer some that are less known, but it's all there. So the only thing this chain needs is just people to build. That's it.
Okay. See,
they don't even need to ask to build. L2 doesn't require governance.
That's what I figured. right? So it's green light. So all the builders there just promote it. I mean, I'll promote it. I'll build on it. Why not? You know, I'm gonna launch my project. And I was thinking of XRPL because it's fast. I'll do both XRPL and Lunc. Why not? Right? This is where I start a lot of the battles. So it's ready to go. So there's really not a problem with this chain as far as I know. You guys brought it up to date. You telling me and centralized, decentralized. You know what? You can approach it in a centralized manner for your project. You call that centralized, right? And do whatever you want as far as outreach to an organization through your project, and then you're
The
just
only
using.
thing that's decentralized on this chain is L1. And honestly, the Cosmo upgrades, the SDK upgrades are only needed to add additional features if they're needed. That's really all there is to it, unless there's security patches that need to get done. But as far as this constant churning and need for SDK upgrades, they're not needed.
No, they're not.
Unless there's something that's breaking where we want to interact with another chain and it's something IBC related, or like again, it's a security patch that needs to get done, or we're getting really behind, right? And because a lot of people think, oh, well, we can just go from this version to this other version, right? Like 4 versions ahead, and that's not usually the case with Classic, just because of some of the customization that's in there. You tend to have to go version by version, just to be able to do the upgrades properly. But no, right now we're in a state where, you know, our SDK version is fine. Endpoints are fine. It's just build, right? Just go out. If you're doing L2, just build it, right? It doesn't matter. You don't need to wait on people to approve things.
Good. That's what I need to know. So we'll build. I'll launch on Lunc and I'll launch on XRPL and give people option. And that's really all that it is. It's just let's just build. If it's decentralized and everything's up to date, then I don't see why there's an issue. I mean, you know,
all the noise on Lunc is just around repegs and burning, right? Which I think is just really holds us back a lot of the time, right? Because it almost feels like people are just sometimes looking for an excuse just to kind of stay stagnant. I don't know. I don't know what that is about.
You know, like I said earlier, if you want to approach an organization to build a relationship, you can approach it in a centralized way through your project, right? And you're just on the network, which is decentralized. And I think that's all it really is. If someone wants to market Lunc through what they're doing, say we're on the Lunc network, and you do it through your project, and that way there's no resistance. Why would you have to ask permission from anyone to do anything? I mean, unless you're making changes to the chain itself, then that's a little bit different. You go through the government,
You
right?
really just need to build a project that's got enough reason to use it, right? If you can build something that's good, that has a utility case behind it, which is even better, you're going to attract people that are going to want to use your project, right? But
Correct. I mean, a chain is a chain. Utility on the chain brings a chain back to life, right?
all the chains are the same in
Correct.
Cosmos, if you really look at it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they all pretty much provide the same features. The only thing that really sets them apart is if they've got some customizations in the L1, or they've got some L2 projects that are, you know, just different than others, right? Or the APR, how fast the transactions go through. But I mean, how fast do you want your transactions to go through? I mean, I understand back in the day when it was like, you know, it would take minutes, but now we're doing milliseconds, right? So
What's a throughput for Lunc?
oh, I couldn't tell you that. I'm not L1.
Oh,
I don't know.
gotcha. Okay, I mean, as far as going to the next version, what does that look like? What's the process? Is there a team that does that, that's dedicated, or is that anybody?
It's just going to be whoever puts up the prop first with a reasonable price, right? And then does the work. Is the nature of decentralization on Lunc.
I got
There's
you.
a few L1 teams, right, already doing things. So
No, I got you. If there's someone's doing it, then that's cool. If nobody was doing it, then that would be a problem. So if it's a problem upgrading it, then that's a problem because I want to see Lunc get listed again back in like a crypto.com and all that stuff. I think it's just a good chain. Um,
I think you're going to have problems with Lunc getting listed on more exchanges simply because exchanges typically want you to pay out a large sum of money to be listed. So adopting Lunc at this point right now, where it has no clear kind of leadership or roadmap, can make it, I'd say, risky.
no,
So it's whether or not the exchanges want to take on that sort of risk.
no, I certainly appreciate it. I think I understand what you're saying, but my question is that if it's again, if it's decentralized, as I said, if a group wants to spearhead and reaching out to an exchange, but they negotiate not so much on behalf of the chains because that's a chain that they're using. Um, I'd say go for it. They can accomplish the task. Why not? To be listed, right? To approach. I mean,
It sounds great until the community finds out and their pitchforks come out, right? And
yeah,
they're
but
like, centralization, you're trying to take over the chain.
no, the chain is the chain. It's still decentralized. It's not like you control who
It
you
doesn't.
want.
It doesn't matter.
Right. No.
In Luna Classic, people will find any reason to complain about
So
progress.
so let's just say I have my project, right? And my project, and they say where is your token built on, or connected to, bridge to. I'll say this network, this network, this network, and these are the network that I'm working with because I like them, right? It makes sense to me. And then I approach an organization talking about my project, and they'll ask, which network are you guys on? And they say, well, this. Hey, any possible way that you can consider looking at this network so this way you can get better exposure to the network? I mean, what's wrong with that? That's not a centralized.
There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
it, but it matters on who you're talking to. So, like, if you're just talking to some other DApp or something like that to get, Luna Classic added in as a pair or something, I don't see anyone batting an eye at that. But if you start talking to exchanges, then, I don't know, people get funny about that for some reason.
Well, let's
Even though it benefits.
let's look at that. Let's dive deep into that. Why would they be upset if anyone? It is decentralized, and anyone can do what they want, right? So if someone approaches an exchange and say, "Hey, can we get Luna Classic listed on the exchange?" What is the problem with that? I mean, someone has to do it. I mean, if it's decentralized, there's no control. Someone has to approach, and if they can get the job done, I mean, they're not asking for anything. They're just getting.
I'll give you a prime example. It was years before anyone decided to step up and get the links on CoinMarketCap changed, right? Years. And as soon as someone did that, then the pitchforks and torches came out. And then it had to be gone through governance and all this shit, right? And it was a whole back and forth mess, to where I think the links even got removed and there was no links on there at some point. So it isn't until someone does something, does certain people come out and decide to go against it, if it's not done the way that they wanted it done.
Okay.
So you can see progress is good, but it's only good until someone says it isn't, and then it's a huge issue.
So who is in charge?
No one's in charge, but I don't know. It's funny. Luna Classic, it's like no one's in charge, but then the minute you do anything on it, then all of a sudden it's like it's a lot of negative feedback, a lot of negative pushback.
So how many exchanges is right now Luna Classic on? Because as far as I know, any project that needs to be successful, you need accessibility, exchanges and DEX and all that.
As far as I know, it's on Binance, KuCoin. I think Mexi. I don't know any other exchanges. I only use KuCoin anyway, right? Since Binance decided to ban Canada, so, or some regulatory thing. I don't know about it, but hopefully that
Yeah,
gets fixed.
if I can add something into this. Okay, everybody's got different kind of opinions. So this is my opinion of how I think the community may respond to certain things. So if, for instance, let's say you, Spoon, you thought you'd want to go to a particular exchange and you want to get Lunc listed, I don't think anybody would bat an eyelid, okay? However, and many people would applaud you. However, if that exchange wasn't going to do a strategic listing where they buy basically their own kind of supply of Lunc, and you wanted to go to the governance part of Terra Classic in terms of like get the validators approval to provide money from, let's say, the community pool, to, you know, build the kind of, if you like, the bankroll, if you like, for the casino, not for the casino, for the exchange, then that's where you might get an issue, because there'll be some validators think, well, okay, you know, I'm not really happy with this money going out the community pool. So once you start to spend money that's community owned, that's where you're likely to get an issue. Okay. However, as individuals or as people part of projects, you are absolutely within your rights to do anything you like to progress Terra Classic. You don't need permission for that. And, you know, which is what Hexagon and pretty much everybody else has said here, you know. And I think in terms of when you talk about centralization as a project, I think that can be a little bit confusing. So on L1, which is the Lunc Terra Classic blockchain, okay, then that's fully decentralized. So any kind of proposal that needs to be approved to alter that chain, that has to go through a vote with the validators and for that to be voted through. Okay, so that's the decentralization element. When you're talking about projects that utilize Lunc or Terra Classic, then every project is in control of itself. You can call that centralized, self-centralized, if you like, or just say, you know, self-managed. So every self-managed project doesn't need any permission from anybody else and can do exactly what they like. And it's just as simple as that. So, you know, it doesn't have, I think there's a danger of it sounding overcomplicated. You can come here, you can build, you can do whatever you like. If you want the chain to expand to other areas where it isn't, great, go have them discussions. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But if you need financial support from the chain, that is when you may have to get the agreement of other people to support you to get a proposal to pass to release those funds to send to a centralized exchange or elsewhere.
No, I appreciate that, Rex. No, I wouldn't ask for support from the chain. I just wanted to see what the possibilities are when it comes to things that needs to be done on the chain. And I know that if you ask for money or alter the chain, you'll need the community and you need the validators. That I know. But as far as anything else, when it comes to like giving, you know, the chain some visibility, and if I approach certain exchanges and say, hey, you should consider listing Lunc again, then, you know, you turn it back over to the community. I wouldn't want any involvement in that process. You know, being
no, actually, sorry, if I could just interject there. If you was to do that, there's no problem with that whatsoever. I don't think anybody would complain about that. In fact, you know, you'd probably get a lot of support for it. There's not, let's say it's the L1, the actual chain is decentralized. There's nobody in charge. There's people that will, there's people that are like ambassadors for the chain just based on their own achievements and their own efforts. So for instance, you've got Vegas. So Vegas is in contact with many exchanges just because he's built up that network. Okay, he's not an official employee of Terra Classic or an official ambassador. He's somebody who's made himself useful, and other people within the ecosystem recognize that use. Same as Hexagon with different chains, same as Terraport in terms of, you know, enabling tokens to be created and things like this. There's many people here that have built a inherent value because of the effort that they've put into developing the chain. And everybody has got the opportunity to be as successful and as useful for the chain as they want to be. They don't need to seek any permission off anybody. You know, effort is free for the giving, if you like.
No, that's great. I appreciate that. So from what I see from the question I've asked, I don't see no problem with this network. I'll connect. I'll bridge. Cool. So now we have another project, and then we just get another project. I'll try to pull other projects in here because I think you guys are all set. I don't see any problem. One side wants centralized, one side wants decentralized. That fight will continue. It'll never stop. So the only way it stops is when projects are going to come in. And we got to welcome the project. Now, is there a problem with projects coming in? That's my next question there.
No, you get as many projects here as what you can. You know, if we get 100,000 on there in the next 6 weeks, that'd be great. I mean, I kind of part of the Terraport team, which were probably one of the more successful DEXs, if you like, on the chain. But one of the, I guess, part of the ethos behind Terraport was we wanted to set a standard for others to go beyond, if you like. So the project that we created, if you come with a better project, fantastic, because that drives a quality war then, doesn't it? Because then we've got to make our project better, and every other project's got to be better, and that increases the quality across the whole of the chain. So whether you're an NFT marketplace, whether you're a wallet, whether you're an exchange, lending protocol, whatever it is, the more the better, in my personal opinion. I don't see competition as a threat. I see competition as something that's very healthy, and it promotes quality and growth.
Appreciate that, Rex.
Yes.
Thanks for your
Hope
time.
that helps, Spoon. Yeah, so just to reiterate, Rexy and Hexagon for L2, you can do what you want. Come build. We're open for business, and once your project's built up, come and join our spaces again. We're happy to talk to you and learn more about your project.
Thank you, sir. I don't see any problem with the chain. I'll build on it.
Awesome. And for other people as well, if you guys are here looking to build, if you sell too, go build it. You know, that's what Juris is doing, Terraport has done, and lots of other FRG, Elbon, Wesso, lots of other projects are doing as well. Right, so for the next 45 minutes to an hour, we'll delve a bit more deep into Terraport, and then I'll cut that into like a podcast for 45 minutes to an hour, get my intent sounds makes me sound important, get my editor to just edit it and post it on YouTube. So, you know, in the future we'll do it for Juris and other projects, so we can learn more about the projects, and especially on Luna Classic, also other AI meme coins or DeFi projects that are hype at the moment. Okay, so Rexy, so for someone that's new, how would you introduce Terraport?
Okay. So excuse me. So Terraport is a place where you can trade tokens, and it's based on the Lunc blockchain, which is otherwise known as Terra Classic. Okay, so you'll have heard of USTC as well, which was the former stablecoin known as UST, and that is a token that's part of the L1 Terra Classic blockchain, just as Lunc is. However, if you want to have a project on Terra Classic, typically you'll have a token associated with that, unless you're something like an independent protocol without that, such as a wallet, etc. And if you want somewhere to trade those tokens, then you need somewhere to do it, and a decentralized exchange enables that to happen. However, it is very distinct from what people would think of as a centralized exchange, because we seem to be the words decentralized and centralized seem to crop up a lot. So I suppose it's best just spend a little bit of time just explaining that. So centralized means somebody has control over something. Decentralized means that nobody has control over it. So within Terraport is controlled by the people that own the Terra coin. So if you want to change the application, then the people that own the Terra coin, which is the coin for Terraport, they put a proposal together in the Terraport forum, and then the holders vote on it. And depending on the results of that vote, depends whether the proposal passes and whatever it applies to. So when you use a decentralized exchange, you always have control over your funds. Okay. Whereas if you're in a centralized exchange like Binance, KuCoin, then effectively you are giving your funds to the exchange to look after fiat until you want to remove them. So, and this is the point of being decentralized. So it's your funds, you're in control all the time, and therefore you've got that freedom.
Awesome, thanks for that. And what's sort of the story for Terraport from the launch? I know it's going to be a difficult conversation because you went through a difficult time with the hack. So if you can talk a bit about the background, how it was launched, and the hack as well.
Hack? What hack? Okay. So going back nearly 3 years when Luna crashed and Terra Classic was born, so to speak, there were people within the community that coalesced together into a loose kind of team, a collaboration, you might say, of people, and that was called the Terra Rebels. And the purpose of that group of people was to help bring life back to Terra Classic. Okay, so they worked together. There's people from all different forms of life, but they just shared passion for Lunc. And they enabled staking to be resumed back on chain, and also the burn tax to be put into place. And then over time, that group, for various reasons, disbanded. And then we was left with an ecosystem that effectively didn't have many kind of, let's say, teams on it or people kind of building as such. And I was part of that Terra Rebels team. I was part of the steering group in the early days. So when I left there, I thought, I think what we need for Terra Classic is certain things put in place. Now, being a decentralized chain means that you can't control anything. But what you can do is you can contribute as much as what you can. So I created a team called Terra Vita or Terra C Vita. And within that, there was a number of people. So one of the founding members was Professor Ed, which many people here will have heard from. So we created a legal partnership together with the view of delivering the aims of Terra Vita. And those aims were to bring life back to Terra Classic in a sustainable way. Okay, so as part of that, we thought there's various pillars we needed to achieve. One was developing the community. Now, something that Terra Classic's got in abundance is a thriving and vibrant community. So we didn't really need to do a great deal about that, other than just carry on kind of promoting and working and collaborating with people. The next was that we needed to help engage with builders and help give them a platform where they could build and create tokens. Okay. The third element was to make it easy for liquidity to come into the chain. So when we talk about liquidity, basically just means money flow. Okay. So within Terra Classic, there's so much value within it, or money flow. Okay. But if you want to grow the value of the chain, you need to attract investors or people with money to buy Lunc to raise the value of it, and then therefore maybe trade on chain with various tokens. And that might mean people buying Lunc from other cryptocurrencies or buying it through fiat currencies such as the pound, the dollar, euro, and so on. And if you want people to use these fiat currencies, you need on and off ramps, meaning a way to get from your pounds and dollars and euros into Lunc and then back out again. So the fourth element that we thought was really important was to make sure that the chain was secure and that governance was as good as possible. Okay, and that goes for applications on Terra Classic as well. But these were effectively like the four pillars, and there's various kind of discussions went on. I became reasonably well known within the community, for various reasons, I guess. And there was a group of developers got in touch with me, and we formed a kind of like a coalition, I suppose you might say, Terra Vita, if you like, as an ethos rather than a validator, is about anybody that actually wants to help grow Terra Classic. Okay, so it's not a tight team in terms of you need to sign a document to be part of this team. If you believe in growing Terra Classic, then you share our ethos, and we will collaborate and work with you as much as possible to make you as effective as possible at growing the chain. And that's really what we're about. So we developed a coalition, if you like, with some developers that just became a core part of our kind of group. And from that, we came up with various strategies of how we could help deliver these pillars. And from that, Terraport was born as an idea. And Terraport being a decentralized exchange where you could have a launch pad and you could create tokens and so on. So this came about in, I think it was April, what we're in 25. So April 23, okay, is when it first kind of launched. And there was a lot of money invested into it, and there was pre-sales, which were, pretty successful. Best part of, 3 or 4 million was raised, and all the money for them pre-sales went into liquidity pools. Because for Terraport to be successful, we wanted to ensure that the barriers to people bringing money into the ecosystem were as low as possible. So therefore, you needed to have low slippage. And for low slippage, you need high liquidity pools. Okay. So all the money from the pre-sales went into there. And some of the biggest contributors to the pre-sales were members of the Terra Vita team. Okay. Now, unfortunately, we'd got agreements with Certic to carry out audits before the launch. But back then there was lots of, how can I call it? Angst across the chain. There'd been scams that had been going on, and there was a massive amount of pressure on the Terraport team to launch. Okay. And as the chain gets updated, if you've got contracts that operate on the chain, you have to update those contracts, or certainly make sure that they're going to operate smoothly. So various things kind of got delayed a bit, and there's a massive amount of pressure, and was really concerned that if we launched without an audit, something could go wrong. But also, if we launched with an audit, then it could be perceived as kind of safer. However, it would actually delay the launch. But if we launch without an audit, then people wouldn't hold us up as being potentially scammers, because there was a lot of thoughts at the time that if you didn't launch on the launch day, then you effectively you was just trying to rug the community, and that's the last thing that was about. So we did as many checks as possible. Certic was late doing the audits, so they couldn't make the launch date, and we thought, okay, let's launch then. It was we kind of had internal votes. I voted against the launch, others voted for it, but the votes for launch kind of held, so to speak. So it's launched and everything went smoothly. Within about 10 days, I think the token had best part of 10x'd. However, what we didn't realize was that a developer that had been took on to help with the creation of the contracts for Terraport was actually a kind of agent of North Korea. Okay, and it all sounds a bit fanciful, but we'll kind of get to this in a minute. Yes, that was unbeknown. We'd got somebody within, that was working with the team that had got very friendly with the lead dev. They shared pictures of the children, all sorts of stuff. And this person had provided documentation, showed us legitimate as well. And basically through social engineering, they created an opportunity for a hack to happen. Now, how that actually happened was when the project was launched, it was safe. Okay. And if it had been audited by Certic, Solid Proof, or anybody else, they'd said, yeah, that's absolutely fine. No problems whatsoever. Okay. So the fact that it was launched without an audit didn't actually affect the security of the project. Okay. And even at that time, if the team had been fully KYC'd through an external body such as Certic, that wouldn't have affected the security either. because the social engineering aspect to it was as the person that was working close with the head dev, we kind of think that he'd created some very slight issue with one of the liquidity pools that only a perfectionist would notice, and our head dev is a perfectionist. So nobody else picked up this issue at all, even though it had been going for the project had been working fine for about 10 or 11 days. And then I think it was in the country where the devs, if you like, live. I think it was a bank holiday, and this hacker realized that at that time that the developers would be maybe out on a family meal or whatever it may be. So he picked his time very carefully to announce to the head dev that he'd found a flaw with one of the pools. And the head dev looked into it and thought, crikey, yeah, there is something there. However very minor it is, there's something there. And then the hacker, as it turned out, presented a solution to it sometime later. And the head dev kind of checked it and thought, yeah, that'll solve that problem. And, deployed the pull request, if you like. So unfortunately, what this did was it created, if you like, a bit of a backdoor. And the developers just carried on what they're doing. The hacker didn't do anything, and everybody kind of just carried on using the platform. However, in the early hours of the morning, I think it was it the 10th of April, 2023, there was I was just monitoring the liquidity pools because I'd invested some money in the liquidity pools myself, and I wanted to see whether they actually performed to the same level as what was published in terms of the returns. So I'd put some money in there. I was going to withdraw it out and let's work out what the real returns were. And it just so happened I started trying to withdraw this money, and then I noticed the pools had they'd all kind of like drained, and I thought, what's going on here? So anyway, I contacted the lead devs, and within kind of seconds, we'd worked out what had happened. As you can imagine, it absolutely devastating. And it is, it's devastating for investors. However, it is more devastating for the head dev. I mean, I was on suicide watch for the team. I mean, the whole ethos of the team was to help bring life back to Terra Classic and to be, held aloft as being a very kind of open and safety conscious project. It was really difficult times. However, by a stroke of good fortune, I guess serendipity, you might say, that literally 3 or 4 hours earlier, I'd been chatting to a Terra Classic community member, and through a call, and at the end of the call, they said, "Oh, by the way, you're within one step of connecting with CZ now, who was in charge of Binance at the time." Most people have heard of CZ, and I thought, "Oh, okay, well, that's interesting." And then, I say, a few hours later, this hack had occurred, and I thought, bloody hell! Now, a little bit of background about myself here to put this into context. Before I came into crypto, my professional background was risk management. So I used to go into large companies. I'd introduce programs to increase their ability to manage risks within the organization, change the safety culture and the risk culture, and create management systems, all sorts of stuff. Whatever was needed, I'll do it. And these would be billion-pound organizations. Okay. And as part of that career progression, I was an advisor to British Standards, and British Standards at that time held the secretariat for the International Standards Organization in terms of managing the implementation of global risk management standards. So I knew a bit about risk, and also because of my background, I always think of the things that I don't want to happen. I can't walk down the street without thinking, oh my God, what could happen here? It's just part of my DNA. So as part of this, I'd planned in my head what I would do if the platform Terraport had an internal hack from the team, or whether it's an external hack, or, you know, if something really bad happened. And I'd worked out ahead what I would do in that situation. So therefore, when it became clear that there'd been a hack, I was quite kind of cool and calm about it, because this was my everyday work. You know, it's I was used to working in organisations where a dead body could be found. So, you know, when I worked in a social landlords, you know, you would find tenants that had died, and people would come to me and say, well, now what do we do about it? Or, you know, there'd be explosions, all sorts of stuff could happen. The Grenfell disaster, that happened in my watch, so to speak, as well, when I was in that profession. So, you know, I was used to disaster planning. So I kind of calmly got in touch with this person that had kind of linked me to CZ. Within about 10 minutes, fortunately, people were awake, and I was, you know, through an intermediary sharing messages with CZ about getting in touch with different centralized exchanges, so that the money that was hacked from Terraport, I kind of figured for people to get that out, a hacker, they'd put it onto a centralized exchange, and then from that they could withdraw it. And my view was that the more money that went into a centralized exchange, the greater the chance that we could get it back for investors. Because when you go into a centralized exchange, you are then the laws of the countries where your exchange are then kind of apply to you. Okay, so we could get that back through anti-money laundering rules and regulations and standards. So I kept very quiet about it, and I encouraged others not to let on that we knew that this hack had happened, so that the hackers would go to sleep, the money would go into the exchanges. I'd liaised with CZ, you know, let's say fortunately, who would then raise the alarm with all the different exchanges to say, look, watch these wallets, and, you know, if anybody put something into your exchange, you know, don't raise the alarm that you're aware of it. Just make sure they can't transfer money out of it, so we can kind of capture it. And that's pretty much what we did. There's some other people in the chain, unfortunately, kind of announced all this kind of stuff on Twitter, which meant that only half the money went into the exchanges. Okay, so that kind of explained at that time how, I guess, to many people within the community, they might have thought Rex seems to be, you know, handling this quite calmly, but it was just my background. So anyway, moving things forward, we thought, you know what can we do about this? So the team was, like I say, absolutely beside themselves. There was, yeah, I mean, literally, you know, as I said earlier, I was on suicide watch. It was terrible. To put a bit of context into this, because there's many accusations through the community to say, well, this is an internal hack. You know, the team's responsible for it. All these investors are being, you know, wrecked, if you like. Now, I think it was 87% of the pre-sales were actually tokens that was bought by angel investors within the team. Okay, so the biggest losers in the hack were actually the team by a massive margin. Absolutely. However, obviously, there's others that invested, some quite significantly, and, you know, that they lost as well. So, like I say, when Terraport was first launched, it was more of a kind of a collation, if you like, a coalition of people working together for an outcome of having a centralized exchange. After the hack, I guess I became more of a prominent part in that story, because I made sure that the team stayed in place and that a plan was put together to rescue it. And as part of that, I said, right, I'm a big believer in whatever happens, there's always opportunities. Okay. There might not be the opportunity you wanted before the bad thing happened. However, there's always a better course of action that can be taken. And if you can lead on that action, then you've got a chance of maybe making something better. So I created a strategy with the team of how we would help Terraport recover, how we would hopefully get the funds back that were stolen. to make the investors whole, and that we'd carry on developing the Terraport platform to help bring life back to Terra Classic. And as part of that, the view was, we will make this the safest platform that you can have in crypto. There'll be no money spared. There'll be no pressure from it. If outside people apply any pressure, I say, I'll put my head above the parapet and I will soak that up. As a development team, you concentrate on making this the safest thing that you can have in crypto. And if, there'll be no distractions, I'll soak up the distractions. So I became the figure for everybody to have a go at and be the finger to point to in terms of, you're responsible for this hack and this, that, and the other. And I did some AMAs at the time, and I got a fair amount of abuse from it. But something else that was going on in my life at the time was my eldest son had got terminal cancer, and he was only 19 or 20 at the time. I was also giving in life care to my father. So for me, having a project hacked for $4 million wasn't the biggest thing going on in my life. It was a nice distraction from the serious things, such as life and death. Okay. Now, when I was in a very unique position where I had all this going on in my life. Okay. Not many people would have, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. So from my point of view, that enabled me to keep very grounded and focused on the problem, which was recovering Terraport. Many other people who wouldn't have had that background would have just thought, my God, I've got $4 million here that's been stolen. And they could have collapsed under the pressure. Okay. So that kind of puts a little bit of context on that. So anyway, at that time, we'd liaised with Binance, who provided us with a forensic expert in cybercrime and crypto crime. And within an hour or two of the hack, he'd come back and he'd said, okay, we've got a coalition of crypto organizations and enforcement agencies around the world that we're part of. We've identified who the hackers are. However, you can't tell anybody, because the hackers were North Korea. And at that time, the enforcement agents and the people that was part of this enforcement coalition, if you like, they wouldn't want North Korea to know that they'd found ways to track them, okay, in these hackers. So we was bound to keep the silence. So we found out within hours who the hackers were, but we couldn't tell anybody, okay? And of course, we couldn't tell the community that. And the community, they wanted somebody to hang. They wanted somebody to blame, because many people are like that. So, as I say, somebody had to absorb all this social punishment, if you like, to enable the development team to have some quiet so that they could help recover the platform. So, yeah. So that was the big role, I guess, that I played in the Terraport recovery. So moving on, we, as part of the strategy to recover Terraport and get the funds back, we liaised with the L1 team on Terra Classic, which we was quite involved in, however, in the background, so to speak. And Vin at the time and Frag and a couple of others put some code together, which would enable $2 million that was kept on chain to actually be kind of frozen, so that it couldn't be, money laundered off. And Vegas helped us with this as well in terms of informing the validators at the time. And that really was, my God, that was absolutely horrendous. I mean, I was absolutely just, dragged over the coals and, ripped alive. I mean, it really ripped apart in terms of, how people approached me, because I was the hacker in their views, even though we knew exactly who they were. So validators voted this proposal down, which would have saved $2 million of investors' funds. Okay. Now, obviously, and according to the authorities, it was North Korea that did this, and they wanted to make sure that, their attempts to reduce money laundering and to reduce crime were effective. And unfortunately, the validators of this chain at that time, they voted to allow the hackers to be able to, basically money launder the funds. Okay, and virtually everybody voted for that, which personally, I think it's absolutely disgusting. I really do. I mean, they could have turned around and just frozen these assets, which they seem very keen to do if it's freezing a wallet of somebody where them funds can be burnt. But to freeze the wallet of some funds that have been stolen from somebody, they don't seem so keen to act on. So that was a very difficult pill to swallow. And I think, I certainly hope that all the validators that voted to allow somebody's stolen funds to be money laundered are really thinking about that. Anyway, so that didn't work. We also couldn't get people to report the theft to the police, other than a very small handful. So therefore, we couldn't get the enforcement agencies to chase up with the centralised exchanges in order to order these funds back. We had I reported it personally to everybody you could do within the UK, the serious fraud squad, the serious, the cybercrime units, the police, everybody. Everybody you can think of. I mean, even the commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, I got in touch with him. I got in touch with the chief advisor to Interpol for cyber security. I got in touch with all these people through kind of LinkedIn, and none of them were really interested because it was decentralized finance, but also because nobody reported this as a crime. I'd only had $100 stolen, so it wasn't even worth them having a conversation with me about that. However, luckily, one of our investors who lived in Norway, he'd had about 40,000 that was lost in the hack. And he went all the way around Norway, and he got their police force to actually approach KuCoin. And when their police officers were talking to KuCoin about getting this money returned to the investors, if you like. However, there was so much chatter across Twitter where people were accusing the Terraport team of stealing the funds, that these police officers basically looked at that and thought, okay, we could get this money back. However, clearly people think it's the team that's done it. So actually, we'll just be giving the hackers the money. That was their view. And of course, that was wrong. So that was another reason where, you've got the community that's basically spreading lies. Many of them will claim that it was, based on fact. Well, they ain't got any facts. We knew they couldn't have any facts because we knew that we hadn't done it. The police or the enforcement officers like the FBI and stuff, they knew we hadn't done it, but we couldn't tell anybody. So anyway, moving forward, about another 6 to 9 months, and the National Security Council, the Security Council from the United Nations, they released a report where it said within there that North Korea was responsible for the hack from Terraport. And once that was released, then we thought, okay, we can tell people, we've got some evidence to show who actually stole it. And then, of course, many of the kind of rumours and people that had stated they'd got proof and evidence that it was an internal hack, all of a sudden they started to go a bit quiet then, because obviously they'd been lying. They'd been lying to the community, I guess, for validator delegations or whatever it may be, just kudos, or just, I don't know, just for awkwardness, I guess, just for notoriety. But yeah, it was all wrong. So all them people lied about Terraport and lied about the team. And that's contributed to investors not being able to get their funds back. So anyway, the platform was relaunched, and we had CertiK audit it, and that was a long process. Took about 6 months, I think, from start to finish. And anybody that's actually involved in auditing auditing anything really, whether it's a management system, whether it's a project, how auditors tend to work is that an auditor isn't there to assign blame, if you like, or to assign a score or anything like that. An auditor's role is to be an independent person that can actually look at your project, in this case, find vulnerabilities and help you make it as safe as possible. Okay. So that means every time they find a vulnerability or an opportunity to improve, then you need to respond to that. And they can't suggest to you what to do because otherwise it's conflict of interest and they're not independent. So you have to come up with a solution. That's then presented back to the auditor. The auditor reevaluates it, and it goes backwards and forwards until you get to a situation where you are happy with the result you've got. And I think with Terraport, there's 260 contracts that needed auditing. So, people talk about, that their projects maybe got a vesting contract or something like that, and it's been approved and it's safe. That's great. That's one contract. When you've got hundreds and hundreds of contracts, it's a massive undertaking. And it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to get Terraport audited. And as part of that, we got the team audited as well. So all the team went through the KFC, not the KFC, sorry, KYC, the Know Your Customer kind of process. And everybody came through absolutely fine. But we went beyond that. We went beyond just the team that was audited. Anybody that had a impact on Terraport, although they maybe didn't contribute directly to the code, but they had a social impact, they came into this KYC process as well. Okay, because we wanted to make sure that whether you held influence or whether you could actually alter the code, we wanted to know who you were. Safety was absolutely the priority. So yes, as part of this process, we create bug bounties, if you like, through Certic as well. And Terraport ended up being AA rated. And at that time, I think it was in the top 10 projects on Certic out of 13,000 for security. And I'd made the point within the team that if we ain't AA rated, we ain't relaunching. And the team worked together to make sure that was kind of delivered. So that's kind of where we got to with that. The project was relaunched. And then from that, I guess we got to pretty much where we are today.
Could you comment a bit on the compensation plans, Rexy? Because that's one of the questions people ask.
Yeah, so obviously the Terraport team was held as being responsible for this hack. Okay, and there's blame for it, and obviously it was the Terraport team were as much victims as anybody else, and there was cries out for basically people to have refunds. Okay, and as we pointed out, when you're a decentralized exchange, you are responsible for your own investment, if you like, and your own wallet, and you have control of it. However, when you put it into a liquidity pool, which is a contract, if that contract is drained, clearly your funds are drained as well. So it wasn't a case that the Terraport team had taken these funds and done a rug or, hack, scam or anything like that. The Terraport team and the Terraport platform and everybody invested it were equal in terms of being victims. So it wasn't a case of refund. However, what we did think to bring some trust back to the platform, which had been ravaged because, like I say, the validators basically called us scammers and hackers. Obviously, that's completely wrong. Many within the community did. But I'm a bit like an English bulldog. I don't give in. I don't back down. I'm not intimidated. And we're going to make sure that we recovered. And as part of that and recovering the confidence of the community, we developed a strategy to compensate users that had been victims of the hack. And the key word there is compensate. Okay. So anybody that was hacked, their funds can still be recovered. All they need to do, and we actually created a bonus structure to support people that did this. However, very few chose to. If you went to the centralized exchanges where your funds had been laundered, as allowed through the plan to seize the funds being not approved by the validators, then you would have a chance of getting your money back. Okay, so you go to the enforcement authorities, the police in your country, and you basically say that, you know, this platform where you invested some money was hacked. As the Terraport team and TerraVita team, we would work with you. We would show you all the transactions. You know, we've got all these funds have been traced, and we've got, you know, spreadsheets just following all these transactions. Where the hackers were trying to launder the money. So we would work with the enforcing authorities with you when you reported to the police so that you could get your money back from Qcoin. I think it was Mexi and Bybit, I think was where it was laundered. Many people thought it had gone through Binance as well. However, you know, that wasn't the case. It had gone through SimpleSwap, but SimpleSwap provided them funds back. So once they realized what was happened, SimpleSwap had contracts with Binance. So to the community, it looked like the funds had been laundered through Binance, but it wasn't. Okay. And like I say, SimpleSwap, they returned the funds to the platform. Unfortunately, less funds went through SimpleSwap than they did elsewhere. There's roughly about $2 million worth that went through Qcoin. Maybe still there for all we know. So yeah, so anybody that had funds stolen, their funds can be recovered. Okay, it's just that hackers have got them or sexes have got them. Okay. However, we wanted to compensate people, so we put a plan together to compensate. That had to be approved by the governance of Terraport, which, like I said, Terraport is owned by the people that own Terra. That got passed through, and then it was basically released to everybody, you know, a few months ago. So yeah, so therefore, you know, the compensation was provided as agreed by governance. But again, I just want to reiterate here that compensation was in an effort to provide people with some funds to make their losses less significant. It was to help bring trust back to the platform. But also, as I say, if those people actually wanted their hacked funds back, they can still get that. So you could receive the compensation, and it wasn't to replace your stolen funds, because your stolen funds could still be recovered. It was compensation to sit alongside that. So all those people that are hacked, if they actually can get their funds back, then they'll actually have doubled their holdings, so to speak.
Okay, thank you for that. And other question, I've asked you this personally as well, and I guess it impacts Juris and other meme coins that have been traded. The fees, so there's some additional fees, right, for the compensation. Is there plans to reduce that as well?
Yes, so as part of the recovery process, we needed to ensure that there was money in the liquidity pools. And of course, that's what was drained. So when Terraport was originally built and then subsequently rebuilt, if you like, the development teams put $1.5 million into developing Terraport. Okay, that hasn't come from pre-sales. That's come from the developers' pockets. Okay, so no money that came from pre-sales went into developers' pockets. They all went into liquidity pools. So when they was emptied, you can have the most fantastic central exchange that you want. If you got no money in the liquidity pools, it ain't going to do any good. And that would mean that projects using Terraport would have the barriers stopping people from investing in their projects and trading in their projects, because slippage would just be so high. Okay. Slippage is something that if you've got in a decentralized exchange, if you've got a pair of tokens, let's say Juris and TERRA, and you want to trade from one to the other, if there's insufficient money in that liquidity pool, it will mean that when you put your trade in, the size of that trade might be more than what the liquidity allows. So therefore, it will mean that you don't quite get out the deal that you was expecting. Okay. So to help raise funds to fill these liquidity pools, there were some private investors that helped put some initial funds into these liquidity pools. And then also it was agreed through governance that we'd put a kind of an emergency fee in place, a recovery fee, where rather than the platform charging 0.3% on each trade, plus the burn tax, that this would be put up to 2%. So therefore, any transaction would have a 2% fee, and then the anything above the burn tax, that would actually go to generating funds, so that then funds can actually help fill the liquidity pools and help with the viability of the platform. And the view was that this was going to be a temporary measure. And as a temporary measure, it's maybe gone a little bit further than what we wanted it to. And that should be being removed, sometime now. We had aimed to remove it by the beginning of the year, such as January. And hopefully that will, it won't be long.
Okay, yeah, look forward to that. Make trading on Terraport a lot easier. So hopefully it comes in soon. I guess last couple of questions. What are things that we can look forward to? Terraport plays a big part in Luna Classic, one of the key exchanges. We're trying to push meme coins that have been traded and launched to Terraport. Juris is on Terraport. What are a few things that we can look forward to?
Okay. Well, hopefully what you can look forward to is a long relationship between Terraport and TERRA Classic. It was built to help bring TERRA Classic back to life. It was helped to give a platform for builders to build on, and it was there as a platform along with the wider kind of team to help make as many successful projects on TERRA Classic as possible. So as part of that, within Terraport as a platform, you've got a launch pad in there. That launch pad isn't like launch pads in many other projects. It's a launch pad that can be bespoked to each particular project. Okay. So it's not like pump.fun. It's more personalized, where you can have the platform designed to what suits your project, whatever that may be. Okay. So there's that element. Also, within the functioning of the exchange, you've got your basic liquidity pools, but also you've got concentrated liquidity pools as well. And if you've got a token on there that's shared with a concentrated liquidity pool, then that will mean that the slippage is far less. So therefore, that makes it far better for trading. There's staking on the platform. There's also farming on there. So what farming basically is every time there's a trade on Terraport, there's fees that are charged. Okay. And the fees are the platform fees plus the burn tax plus whatever it is that's attributable to that particular token. So there's tokens on Terraport that may charge, let's say, a 10% fee. So every time you trade with that token, 10% of that maybe goes to the developer, or goes to a marketing pool, or goes to buy back and burn it, whatever it may be. So many of the fees on Terraport aren't actually associated with the platform. They're associated with the tokens that are on the platform. Okay. So the platform fees that are collected from trading, if you buy like Terra and you put it into farming on Terraport, and various other tokens can do this on there as well, then you get a portion of those fees. Okay. So therefore, your Terra that's staked and farmed on Terraport shares in the success of the platform, which is kind of how it should be, as well as having governance votes for Terra holders. However, there's new projects that are coming out. So we've got a bridge that's been built, and it's just going through the final bug checking at the minute, and that will link to many chains in crypto, from BNB, ETH, Sol, and so on. The full list to be announced. And I've seen this application, and as a bridge, it's been in existence for I think about 9 months. However, we chose not to release it because what we consider that is a big problem, not just in Terra Classic, but in crypto, is if you want new investors to come in, and newbies, if you like, people that aren't used to crypto, Terra Classic is difficult to get involved in. I've got, personal kind of friends that want to invest in Terra Classic that have been investing in crypto for quite a number of years. They ain't got a clue how to get in here or how to buy tokens. And we need to kind of resolve that. So by creating the bridge, we thought it was massively important to make sure it was as user-friendly as possible. And the current bridges that were in place didn't seem to be that way. So we had to basically put that project on hold until we got it to such a level of development that we thought a newbie stands a chance of being able to use it. Okay, with just a basic kind of knowledge on kind of crypto. And that's pretty much where it is. I mean, if I can use it, anybody can use it. And as part of that, we've got a wallet that's due to be released as well. And within that, there'll be a lot of functionality in terms of, being able to kind of stake with validators, being able to explore the ecosystems, being able to trade all the different tokens that are on Terraport, those that are either approved and whitelisted, or those that are just in just on the kind of chain, if you like, what we call in the degen mode. And just on that point, I'm often kind of asked the question about, why does Terraport have whitelisting of tokens? And one of the reasons for this is that project owners asked for it to happen and to be put in place. Because when Terraport first relaunched, there were 600 tokens that was created within the first week. And many of those tokens were scam tokens, which are basically mirror copies of genuine tokens on the chain. And what this meant was that the genuine projects were being confused with scam projects, and investors were being basically scammed. And what we found was that most of these scam projects wouldn't put much money into a liquidity pool. And effectively, they was just collecting small amounts of investors' money. So you might have a scam token that, would close down once it had maybe collected a couple $100. So we thought that if we introduced a fee on Terraport, so that if you create a token on there or a liquidity pool, that you were to pay a small fee.
Rexy, it's rugging a bit. Red, can you guys hear him? Hello, clearly a red line.
I can hear him, I think.
Okay, it might be.
Right, I can hear you,
Carry on,
Juris.
Rexy.
I can hear you, Trader. Yeah, so the point of having the whitelisting fees is to reduce the risk, because hackers don't like to pay fees. So it's not a lot, it's just, a couple $100 worth of Terra, and then that goes to, it doesn't go to the team, it goes to be bought. That Terra then goes to be burnt, if you like. So it's purely for security. And yeah, so, there has been some calls recently to remove it back so it's completely permissionless. But with permissionless, you've got greater risk. And one of the biggest problems with a platform is that if there's scams going on with fake tokens being created, that comes back to the platform, and people say it's your responsibility, it's your platform, do something about this. So it's difficult. You can have a completely permissionless system, which is just, that puts the full emphasis on you as an investor, ensuring that you're investing in a contract that is actually the contract of the team that you want to invest in, and it isn't a scam one. Or you can have the platform work with you, where they'll put some elementary processes in place to try to reduce that risk. So there we go. Yeah, so that kind of explains the fee side of it. But other things that, the TerraVita team does around this is that we've got a strategic relationship with the casino. And the casino's recently been doing buyback and burns of tokens that are created on Terraport. Okay, and one of them recently has been Cat with Hat. And I think something like about 10% of the supply of Cat with Hat was bought back and burnt. Okay, and one of the reasons for this was that as part of our overall strategy to help bring life back to Terra Classic, and of course, like I say, you can only do your bit. You can only contribute. It's not about controlling Terra Classic. It's doing what you can as part of the community. So we kind of felt that it's all right having lots of tokens on your platform, but you need successful tokens. So Juris has done pretty well up to now because it's got a fantastic utility behind it that's been built. I suspect that if Selenium is launched, that would probably do pretty well as well, because, you know, that's going to be the equivalent of Mirror. And, you know, that's a good utility. But many of the meme tokens, I guess through, you know, just the pure term of meme, means usually they haven't got a lot of what I'd call proper utility. Okay, they've maybe got things you can do with the tokens, like you might be able to buy NFTs with them, or you might be able to stake them somewhere, but that's often quite more or less quite the limit. The main thing that they offer is this meme narrative where you can buy into it, it can pump, you can maybe generate some really good trading profits, if you like, and we kind of wanted to help support the non-utility kind of tokens. Okay, and the reason why Cat with Hat was chosen was Cat with Hat, the developer, didn't actually have any of his own tokens. He produced this as a project to help demonstrate to people within Terra Classic what could be done, and also he was very philanthropic in terms of his time, in terms of helping other people. And we kind of thought, we want to reward that, because collaboration should be rewarded, cooperation should be. So we thought, you know, we will pick his token, and, you know, we will help with that to help build this kind of meme narrative on Terra Classic, where people outside of the community can look at the platform and think, my God, you know, that token's pumped. I wish I'd bought into that one. I wonder what the next one's going to be. And therefore, this could attract more money, more liquidity, if you like, into Terra Classic, which then, once a token's kind of pumped and inflated and maybe stabilized, there'll be people that might take some profits and might think, I wonder what's going to be the next thing to do 100x. And then they'll invest in other tokens on Terra Classic. And then that way you start to then generate another successful token that then gets heard about outside of Terra Classic, which then attracts more investors in. And hopefully, you know, you'd eventually end up with a tidal wave of new investment coming in, and we'd have like a Solana-esque meme environment or meme trading environment on Terraport.
Yeah, I've tried to push that as well, Rexy. So when's the next burn? When's the next casino burn of Cat with Hat?
Well, that's a good one, isn't it? There's plenty in the bag to burn. I mean, it could be sooner rather than later. I guess it's a watch this space, and also, you know, within the casino, I guess just to kind of explain a little bit more about that. The Terra Casino, the fees that it takes from when it takes bets within the casino, whether that's BNB, F, Bitcoin, USDT, Lunc, TERRA, whatever it may be, a percentage of those bets are put to one side, and it's 0.2%. And the reason why it's 0.2% was that when the casino first came to town, so to speak, the on-chain tax was 0.2%. So we'd negotiated with them that 0.2% of every bet would be burnt. However, like I say, it's not just Lunc. It could be Bitcoin, ETH, whatever it is. So as those funds are kind of stored, every now and again, the casino will buy back Lunc and it will burn it. Okay, which kind of fitted in with the burn narrative, and it's burnt a vast amount. I mean, what you see on these things like Lunc metrics and Lunc Dash and all these kind of things is the kind of tip of the iceberg of what it's actually burnt. I think currently it's currently about 410 million. However, if you take into account what's burnt through money transferring in and out of the platform, I think it's closer to about 700 million Lunc that's been that's been burnt. And if it got to the trading volume of what something like stake.com has, you'd be burning massive amounts. However, as Terra Civita, if you like, we'd negotiated with the casino that rather than this money going just to burn Lunc, we thought, is there a way where it could help the ecosystem? And we thought, rather than burning Lunc, what if that money was put into action, if you like, to buy back and burn tokens on chain? Okay, and then that way, because it'd have a lot more impact, it would actually help people that are interacting with platforms on Terra Classic, such as Terraport, and because they would see tokens gaining value, and therefore, I guess from the casino's perspective, they would think people might feel grateful that the casino's basically, spending its profits on pumping tokens. So therefore, they might get more customers, which then generates more funds, which then creates that kind of cycle. From a project's perspective, something like Cat with Hat, that helps that team kind of grow their token, if you like, and therefore become more sustainable and be able to, from his perspective, be able to help more people. From Terraport's point of view, they've got a project on there that is doing pretty well, that maybe wasn't doing quite so well. And then from a community perspective, they've got things that they can see that are happening that are really positive that they can use to spread the word to other parts of the community and crypto and beyond. So, it was seen as a, just kind of full of positives, really.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Rexy. I'll get the editor to sort of cut this portion of the spaces for Terraport, and I'll upload it. Next week, we got plans to do with an AI project I've invested in, Coles. The week after, I'll check with LL. If Juris is ready, we'll do Juris, because plan was to do Juris for the first sort of podcast we do. Maybe we'll do Queen. So I know I can see DJ here and a few Queen holders. It's a meme coin project. Some people that will be aware of. Maybe we'll get them on for a Crypto Gems AMA in one of the future spaces. Okay, and we'll go around the table then. Redline, any final thoughts before we finish the spaces? Are you still there, Redline? Okay, we'll come back to Redline. Hexagon, thanks for tuning in. Any final thoughts? I don't know if it's my mic, but I can't hear Redline or Hexagon. Let's try Juris, maybe third time lucky.
I could not hear them as well, so I think it's not you.
I can barely hear you. I think my space is rugging me.
Yeah, is it?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Am I just?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay.
Any final thoughts on? I guess any question for Rexy for Terraport?
No, I think you asked all the relevant
I think the key one for us,
me,
I mean, for Juris, I spoke to LL as well. It's just the fees reduction would be great for trading. That was one of the key things me and you talked about as well, LL, when we spoke personally.
Maybe concentrated liquidity, but I was told that might be being worked on. So, but I like Terraport, to be honest, and I recently looked into the what is it called, Vintrex?
Yes, Vintrex, the cornhole, the aggregator.
Yeah, I checked it out, and because I mean, Terraport was great as well, but
is Vintrex? I mean, and I'm scared to connect my wallet to stuff. Is it audited? Do you know the team? I've checked it out. It looks good, but I've not connected or traded through it yet.
I don't know them, so I cannot vouch for anyone.
Yeah.
I don't know. If you want to try it out, maybe try it out with with a spare wallet until we find out.
Yeah, that's just
maybe Rexy knows. I don't know personally.
Yeah, it's It's something that I looked into when I reached out to the team behind Vintrex. And yeah, there wasn't forthcoming in terms of who they were. I think they kind of give the indication that there was kind of new to Terra Classic. However, when I pried a little bit further, I said, have you got any kind of political connections to validators or any existing projects? And they didn't want to answer that, which kind of made me think that maybe there's even somebody here that knows who they are. But from my point of view, because of what's happened with Terraport, safety comes first, security comes first. Yeah, so I'm not connected to it. I'm not connected really to anything unless I know who the people are. I'm just, I'm also kind of curious about it all. However, I think that Vintrex platform's doing all right. As Terraport, with my Terraport add-on, we offered to help them with it, and even offered to buy it off them, if you like, to help kind of promote it and build it. However, they're happy working on their own, which is absolutely fine. And we need builders here. But I guess just taking a step to one side on that, any project that's built on Terraport, built within Terraport, if you like, through the legitimate kind of approach, when they use the token that they create, inherits the auditing that the platform has through Certic. So a Terraport created token will be safe. If you've got tokens that are built elsewhere, I can't vouch for those. And then they maybe have pools on Terraport, but then if you look at something like CoinAll, it will say, this was created in TerraSwap or something like that. So yeah, you've still got to do your own research. And in terms of just answering your question there, Juris, we're gradually migrating all the pools, or as many as what we can, from normal liquidity pools to concentrated liquidity pools. However, when Terraport was first launched, like I say, I think it had 260 contracts back then. The way that they were built meant that each liquidity pool was individual to each contract. So you can't just do a mass migration. So that means that there's a lot of handballing, a lot of development goes in this. And what we're doing is we're prioritizing the projects with the biggest volume, or that we think have likely to have the biggest impact within Terra Classic. And currently that's Juris. So Juris is right up at the top of the list, which is why, TerraVita and Terraport as a team have helped provide liquidity with Juris as well. We're very much interested in the success of Terra Classic, and that means helping projects on Terra Classic. And I guess just in furtherance of that, something that we do within TerraVita is that we have Telegram groups set up to support projects that are built, as well as tokens. We even provide sponsorship for tokens that are built on Terraport. So if you're within these Telegram groups and you're built on Terraport, we will pay for you to be promoted through YouTubers, because we want you to do well. And that's about that added value that us as a project team deliver to the community. So we don't just want your token on the platform, we want you to thrive and be doing really well. I don't know how many other projects do that, but that's just trying to give that added value.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you,
Rexy, for that. I hope this spaces got recorded correctly, because like I said, I wanted to use the Sunday sort of crypto gems AMAs to turn it into a podcast and post it. So yeah, because your voice was rugging a bit, but hopefully it was recorded correctly and it was just my spaces on my end. But no, thank you everyone for tuning in. Next Thursday is Valentine's Day, so we'll skip the spaces. I'm sure you've got better ways to spend than listen to me, Rexy LL, and Lunc community chat about Luna Classic. The next spaces will be Sunday. We'll start off with Luna Classic, and then I'll have an AI project calls that I've talked about previously. And then hopefully the week after it will be Juris or Queen on a Sunday. And Thursdays are just Lunc specific spaces. We'll invite Rexy, Vegas, Hexagon, other people in the Luna Classic.
You've gone quiet. Either you're rugging or I'm rugging.
Oh no, I can't hear him either. Guys, Rocko just wrote me that he's rugging, so I don't know, maybe I don't know. I'm not co-host, so if he leaves, then the space is over, I guess. Let me ask him what to do. All right, guys. So I think we have to end the space. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Rocko asked me to wind it down. Oh, Rex is already a listener. Hexagon, thanks for joining. So again, Juris dashboard will be up in a couple